I'm Tony Birtley. I'm Asia correspondent for Al Jazeera based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I cover Asia and Pacific, and basically working for Al Jazeera is like having a blank canvas. And for someone from my Asian experience, it means I can actually choose my topics, which for the first time in my life, or probably the second time in my life, it's the most rewarding thing. And we're doing some, as I said before, helping the disappearing world in terms of foreign news disappear a little bit more slowly.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the story that you won the...
Yeah, Myanmar. Myanmar was, I mean, the thing with Myanmar is you can get in as a tourist. It's very difficult to get in as a journalist. It's very closed to foreign journalists. And when it all started happening, these great demonstrations, I knew from experience that it would end in tragedy because this government, this military junta, is very strong, and they were not going to let the people take over by, people power. So I couldn't get in as a journalist, so I went in as a tourist. And I went in with a camera by myself because you can't take a camera crew in with you. So I was by myself there for about 13 days and filming whenever I could and interviewing. The problem is that when you're filming, sometimes you can't have the time to talk to somebody. So, you're playing this balancing act of being a cameraman but being a reporter, and both of them kind of suffer a little bit, but ultimately the whole story gains.
Yeah. How did you come to decide this was the story that you wanted to do and also by yourself?
Well, at the time, we were getting information about the demonstrations. The numbers of people turning out on the streets were increasing day by day. So we were desperately trying to get in. And it was a big surprise to me that I actually got a visa as a tourist to go in because, I'm a sort of on-air correspondent, so it was a bit difficult. But anyway, I got in. And then you just play it, and a lot of it comes down to experience because I think they were talking at the conference here about experience and about young people doing VJ, and you've got to have some kind of understanding about situations. It's not easy to just walk into a situation. There are certain techniques you can adopt. I mean, I've been covering war for 17 years, and I've been wounded 3 times. I've had 5 of my friends who've been killed, and you get a certain kind of experience in that period. Now, Myanmar was a difficult assignment because, one, it's difficult for people to talk to you. It's difficult for you to be shown openly out on the streets because the authorities will look for you, and they try to find me several times. And thirdly, there was a Japanese journalist who was shot dead, and he was amongst the people. So you've got to be very careful. So I did this kind of elaborate thing of changing hats, changing shirts, never staying in one place too long, moving around, talking quickly, disappearing, changing my routine. It's a bit like espionage, I suppose, but that's what you have to do these days.
Yeah. How does the proliferation of cheap cameras, cheap recorders, this ability to go in as one person impacted you and your reporting in such a long career?
Well, it hasn't really affected me. I mean, I was actually one of the forerunners of video journalism. I did this in the early 90s. I was a freelance for a period and I did this. I've always gone back to use that technique because often in stories it's the only way to do something. You make people more sort of assured about just the presence of one person. A small camera like this is not imposing like a big camera is with a producer and a cameraman, and so it's less imposing. So it hasn't affected me. The way it's affected, I always say, with an organisation, if they have the choice to send a crew and a VJ, they will send a crew for a number of reasons, because you are going to get better quality with a crew. But if it's a war situation, then a VJ is fine, and it's less risk. One person is at risk, not 3 or 4. So, they balance this up. Television is all about money. It's an expensive business, sending a crew, expenses, hotels, flights, whatever. So, send a VJ, it's much cheaper. And usually a VJ is a freelance. So there's no contract, no nothing. They pay them just for that story. And also there's no moral hang-up to pay for their medical expenses.
True. But as far as, can you travel now lighter than you used to? Different things like that?
Yes, I remember actually the first Gulf War in the early 90s when we had satellite dish, and a satellite dish is probably the size of this, and all the boxes that went with it were about sort of probably 5 or 6 tons of equipment. But we had the capability to actually go live from a battlefield with generators and whatever. Now I go with a box this big. It's an incredible difference, and people who don't know think it's a kind of computer. So as long as you get clear atmospheric conditions, you can send your stuff out, and that's what we did from Myanmar.
Okay, so you did everything really breaking
Edit on the computer, and then you send it out, by the satellite.
Yeah. How long were you there?
Nearly 2 weeks.
Okay.
My visa lasted for 2 weeks, and I stayed there. I could have left earlier. There was a couple of times when I was almost arrested, but I got away. But I wanted to stay as long as possible because it's a very important story. And I've learnt in the past that if you're somewhere where something is happening, it's a mistake to leave. Only if your life is threatened. That's the only reason you would.
Mm-hmm. And so what advice would you give to people who want to get into this kind of thing, solo reporting in kind of really the most newsworthy and most dangerous places? What advice would you give?
Well, there's a number of things they've got to learn. Firstly, they've got to understand a little bit about business. You can't actually go into a situation and know nothing about the situation. You've got to know a little bit about first aid, I would say, because, as I said, I've been wounded 3 times. A little bit of first aid is quite important. Also, you must go with some kind of backup, so you must make contacts before you go. Even if they don't know you, even if they don't want you to work for you, if they know who you are before you go, then you have some point of reference. So you're in a big place where something big happens, they will contact you. You must understand a little bit about copyright law, because in this business, nobody gives you something for nothing. They will use you, exploit you, suck you in and spit you out. So you've got to know about rights and copyright, what you can ask for, what you're legally entitled to. But you've got to know a little bit about survival. It's only a thing with experience, but you've got to understand when you're in a difficult and dangerous situation, what can you do to minimize that danger? And it's not straightforward, because some people react in different ways. I mean, for example, you get heavy shelling. Some people freeze. Some people run. If bullets are flying, which way do you run? Where do you go? What do you do? So it's a lot to learn. And I've seen some tragic consequences of people who never took that advice. Young people who are killed, because if you go to a war situation or a dangerous situation, it's a fast track for many people. So I'll go there,
right, and
this organisation will look at my material and want me to work for them. But if you wait from the outside saying, please send me, they won't send you because you have no experience. So it's kind of like catch-22 situation.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like some of the things that you need to do to get used to dangerous reporting situations are a little bit even more difficult than learning the technology and learning how to do the journalism.
I think the technology perhaps is second. You've got to know firstly and foremostly how to put a story together, right, because there's no point going into the most dangerous situation in the world if you do not do justice to that story. So you've got to learn about filming techniques. And it may be that you just get a camera, you walk down the street and you film a market scene or something, but then come back, look at it and say, I didn't get a very good idea, because television is about visuals. You must get good visuals, because with a story, if you lose the viewer in the first 20 seconds, you lose them for the story, you lose them perhaps for the broadcast, you lose them for the program. So you've got to actually make the most of whatever situation you're in. So you've got to learn to film a little bit. You've got to learn journalistically what is a story, what's important, what you need to hear, what message you need to put over. So you've got to learn that. So it's not just a case of, I'm going to walk down there, I'm going to film this, I'm going to do a story. Because I've seen the plus and the minus to that situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it. Is there anything else that you would add that I didn't ask you about producing your piece?
Just if I didn't have the support of my wife, I would never do it, because she would kill me.
I can imagine.
I've had 3 wives.
Ah!
Yeah.
Good for you.
They always say that you can tell the nationality, the conflicts a foreign correspondent has covered by the nationality of his wife. So I've always picked up a wife in conflict zones.
Ah, okay.
No more.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And congratulations.
Thanks. You're welcome.